Hello, welcome. Thank you for joining us on this edition of News 2. I'm Sandra Gumansing. In our top story, the government of the Virgin Islands has plans to improve on the territory's infrastructure, and through federal aid, Governor Mapp divulged in a press briefing that he would like to rebuild a more resilient power grid. Today, the governor appeared in Washington to seek more aid and ask Senate members to amend federal laws. News 2's Stephanie Brown reports.
Governor Mapp appeared before members of Congress today alongside Governor of Puerto Rico to appeal for additional funds to build a more hurricane-resilient territory.
Thank you for the opportunity to appear before you today to discuss the catastrophic damage done to the United States Virgin Islands, suffered from two Category 5 hurricanes, Irma and Maria.
Governor Mapp stated that the territory was in the process of gaining access to $400 million, which would go towards building hospitals and building a strong power grid. But the Stafford Act statutes detail that funding go toward repairs and not rebuilding.
I think that there's broad agreement. I've talked with colleagues on the other body and the other side of the aisle here. Congress needs to provide greater flexibility in how Stafford Act funds can be used. I certainly am going to work with my colleagues in the administration to help implement that change.
Currently, only about 30% of the territory has power, and the chairman of the Senate's Energy and Natural Resources Committee urged her constituents to act swiftly in assisting the U.S. Virgin Islands and Puerto Rico with regaining electricity.
I think we recognize that any one of the 50 states here, whether you are on the mainland or like Hawaii or Alaska, apart from the continental United States, nowhere would we accept the fact that the residents have been without power for 2 months.
To further seek aid in the recovery of the Virgin Islands, members of the 32nd Legislature traveled as a delegation with Governor Mapp to Washington, D.C., and the territory's delegate to Congress worked to have those senators' voices heard.
I've set up meetings for the senators with other members of Congress so that they can hear from people on the ground, from our local officials, that we are all working together to support the territory.
For News 2, I'm Stephanie Shalana Brown.
Now, WAPA CEO Julio Reimer also appeared before the U.S. Senate Committee on Energy and Natural Resources to provide a brief overview of the Virgin Islands Water and Power Authority and the challenges now faced in the aftermath of the hurricanes. He said the two power plants in Estate Richmond on St. Croix and Crombie on St. Thomas fared well. The transmission and distribution system suffered damage at the hands of Hurricane Irma on the order of 80% on St. Thomas and 90% on St. John, with the two outlying islands, Hassel Island and Water Island, each suffering about 90% damage to the electrical infrastructure. Hurricane Maria rendered about 60% damage to St. Croix's system. He said today WAPA is engaged in a major restoration effort on all islands. We are in the process of rebuilding transmission feeders and primary circuits, all before we can completely restore commercial and residential customers. Our commitment, he said, is to rebuild and re-energize about 90% of all geographical locations by the end of December. With monthly revenues that have been dramatically reduced from $26 million to just over $2 million, he said the authority is struggling to cover the day-to-day operational cost of the company. The extraordinary cost of restoration with a price tag that can easily top $30 million will be a financial hurdle for WAPA to overcome. He said, we are grateful to the U.S. Congress and to President Donald Trump for quickly enacting legislation that will provide assistance to both Puerto Rico and the USVI. Just as equally concerning as the day-to-day operational costs and the cost of restoration are the costs associated with pre-storm obligation, debt service, operation and maintenance of the power plants, insurance, contractual arrangements, and previously enacted financing agreements. To address these expenses, the authority has sought a community disaster loan through the government of the VI. The most glaring takeaway from the experience of Hurricanes Irma and Maria is the need to not only rebuild our transmission and distribution system, he says, but to factor in more resiliency. In other words, harden the system to minimize the effect of catastrophic windstorms such as major hurricanes. Republican leaders from the USVI, they're in the nation's capital this week as well. The GOP from St. Croix, St. Thomas, and St. John say they are pushing for greater federal scrutiny of the territorial government. Javon Williams, the territory's committeeman on the Republican National Committee, is joined by VI GOP Vice Chairman April Newland and Dennis Lennox, the party's former executive director. They have a series of meetings in the House of Representatives, Senate, Department of Interior, and at the White House, and they gave us a brief update. Here's more.
I'm here in D.C. just to meet with my counterparts in the Senate, the House, the White House, just to talk about basically federal aid. You know, I firmly believe that the Virgin Islands should get its fair share in federal aid. However, you know, just with everything, we need federal oversight to make sure that our money is maximized and spent properly. So $7.5 billion is a lot of money. Okay, we need to make sure that money is being spent properly. We owe it to our taxpayers.
Well, what we've been discussing this morning, and we're going to be discussing again this afternoon, and we have meetings tomorrow, is meetings about Homeland Security. I'm trying to get customs officers to go on the cruise ships, the foreign cruise ships, so that they can clear the passengers before they come into port, so we can fill the empty days that we don't have ships, like on Mondays and Tuesdays. The other thing that we're working on is working on with the fisheries, that if we can get more FADs, which are fish attraction devices, to bring in more FADs to our North Drop, where we can keep some of the fishermen that are fishing in our territorial waters over on the U.S. side, because we've been having some trouble with, these large fishing vessels going over into the DVI, and then they're getting extraordinary expenses for clearing, cruising fees, additional fees that they've been adding on, and some of these large, beautiful fishing yachts that come down that spend millions of dollars in the Virgin Islands, saying that they might not come back.
And Counter to keep you updated, Sebastiano Paiwanski-Casanelli, who is the president of the St. Thomas St. John Chamber of Commerce, said the board of directors of the Commerce, they have retained the services of the law firm McGuire Woods, LLP, with the financial support of the Chamber membership to assist the USVI in ensuring that a proposed amendment be considered by members of the Senate Finance Committee of the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. He stated by changing the sourcing information, the source rules for income, the USVI will be more competitive in the financial services arena and expand job opportunities. The first in meeting with the key members of the committee and their staff in order to have that draft amendment, treatment of sourcing rules for U.S. territory submitted to the committee members, and it is intended to change the way the income sourced within the Virgin Islands is treated for tax purposes. They say under the amendment, income earned in the U.S. by companies legitimately located within the territory would be treated as income produced within the Virgin Islands. Paiwanski-Casanelli said our efforts are completely supportive of the delegate and the administration, but the Chamber Board felt it was imperative that they hire McGuire Woods at this 11th hour to make sure our voice and concerns are heard by the members of the Senate committee. Well, with the large amount of debris in the territory, removal of the debris presents an interesting challenge to the government of the VI. With an existing consent decree on the landfills in the territory, the government of the VI options for debris removal are under some heavy scrutiny from the EPA and local organization. Richard Dorsey reports.
Proposed options for handling the large amount of debris in the territory proposed by the Army Corps of Engineers was open-air burning. President of Island Green Living Harithwick Rema, an avid supporter of the environment in the Virgin Islands, spoke to NEWS2 about his concerns with the open-air burning initiative, as well as the steps he and others took to make alternative solutions available.
I believe on November 3rd, I spoke with the EPA office in New York, and they asked me whether I know of any burning going to happen on Monday at a place called Bodies Lab, and I was taken by surprise, and that's when we went into action. We had a closed-door meeting with two FEMA FEMA representatives and Senator Jackson, and we decided it's going to be an open dialogue. And I would say they attended the meeting reluctantly, and it was held on Monday, so less than 36 hours after we got the meeting announced. It was quite telling that the Army Corps of Engineers were sharing information not backed up by their own website, such as their own website shows burning with flame and smoke in their video, and they're saying there's no open flames and no smoke. Army Corps of Engineers had given a one-sided argument and not sharing information on the other side. We are not just saying and the burn. We have given an alternative options, and the governor himself said no burn at the very beginning. And I consider this governor a green governor, and I'm speaking as the president of Island Green Living Association.
Richard Dorsey, News 2.
Iran's President Hassan Rouhani has vowed to find the culprits responsible for buildings collapsing in that 7.3 magnitude earthquake on Sunday. He suggested that government-built buildings had collapsed while privately built ones remained standing. More than 400 people were killed and close to 8,000 injured in that quake, although an early report from the state news agency, IRNA, said 530 people had died. The death toll was later revised downward to 432, but many more people are thought to have died and been buried without death certificates, meaning they are not included in the official figures. Keeping our eye on the economy, let's take a look at the numbers there. According to the numbers, everything down. The Dow 30, NASDAQ 19, S&P 500 down 5. Coming up on News 2, we have crime reports as well as the latest WAPO restoration efforts. That's coming up. Welcome back. Here's a quick update from VINGN, Virgin Islands Next Generation Network. They experienced an outage today due to a fiber cut, they say, caused by a non-VINGN utility company around 11:03 a.m. Areas affected included St. Thomas and St. John. Repairs were anticipated by this afternoon. They said this is not the first time a fiber cut was due to work-related activity, resulting in a network outage affecting thousands of USVI citizens. So they are imploring all public and private entities to take special care when working with heavy equipment and tools at all times, when cutting, removing cables from utility poles, excavating, digging, and creating pathways. Police are investigating and asking for your assistance if you have any information. They say on Thursday, November 11th, at approximately 3:15 a.m., a female individual reported that she and 5 of her friends were robbed at gunpoint after leaving the Meblock nightclub in Frenchtown. And she also reported that the robbers fired shots, then left the area on foot. The victims stated that the robbers took an undetermined amount of cash from their wallets. Investigation revealed that one of the victims was gun-butt during the robbery and was taken to the Roy Lichtensteiner Medical Center. Victim was treated for a laceration to the back of his head, which took 3 stitches to close, and he was released. Please contact the VIPD 774-2211 or the Criminal Investigation Bureau, as well as Crime Stoppers, if you have any information that can assist. Meanwhile, police reported that on Friday, November 10th, a 17-year-old female minor told her 2 friends in school that her stepfather was sexually molesting her. The school friends reported to the school nurse. The nurse called 911, officers responded, and the minor victim told investigators that on Thursday, November 9th, her stepfather asked her to touch his penis, and when she refused, he forcibly grabbed her hands, touching his penis, and he started masturbating. He did the same the Friday morning as she was getting ready for school. The stepfather, 34-year-old Carlos Ayala, was subsequently arrested, police say, and charged with unlawful sexual contact, 2nd degree. The FEMA DRC at the Omar Brown Fire Station has ceased operations as of Saturday, November 11th. The DRC has now been relocated to the former Scotiabank on the waterfront as of Monday, November 13th. Now, all FEMA DRCs are now closed on Sundays. The Disaster Recovery Center at St. Peter's Episcopal Church in Christiansted, St. Croix, will be closed this Thursday morning for a church event. Now remember, the FEMA registration deadline for Irma and Maria has been extended to December 18th.
My job is to kind of help inform the general public about all of our activities that we're doing for everybody here in St. Thomas and St. John. I'll be working with one of my fellow public information officers named Troy York. We'll be covering all the areas. So we're here today at the new Disaster Recovery Center, which is located at the old Scotia Bank right on the waterfront here in downtown St. Thomas. It's open from 8 o'clock in the morning till 5 o'clock in the evening, and it's filled with a bunch of different services that can help out disaster survivors. We have folks from not only FEMA to help you apply for disaster assistance, but we also are partnered with our agencies with Small Business Administration, our fellow folks in mitigation, and a bunch of other services. So we encourage you to come down, update your records, and get registered with FEMA today. An easy number to call is 1-800-621-3362 or go online at www.disasterassistance.gov. We'd like you to bring a couple of forms of identification and possibly a bank routing number. This will help expedite the process to get you and disaster funds to get put back into your account. So all of these things will help out expedite the process for the disaster survivors. In the devastating aftermath of Hurricane Irma and Maria, this is what the federal government does, is come in and support all of the local communities. This is what we train for. This is what we do. This is how we support our communities.
So good news, that deadline has been extended, as well as also good news, the Department of Health and Human Services, Felicia Blighting, the commissioner, announced that the U.S. Department of Agriculture, Food and Nutrition Service has approved the department's waiver for an extension of the Virgin Islands Disaster Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, and we've been calling it DSNAP. In approving the DSNAP request, she said the FNS highlighted the Virgin Islands supporting information to justify the extension, as the application site volume was significantly larger than anticipated of the first 4 days, and connectivity issues stemming from limited telephone and internet access in the USVI have presented application processing challenges. So the FNS has granted a 3-day extension to the department, which begins Thursday, November 16th through Saturday, November 18th, 2017. Now, DSNAP site locations are on St. Thomas at UVI, Tutu Park Mall, and the Frenchtown Evangelical Church on St. Croix. The sites are at the DHS offices in Mars Hill, Frederiksted, the Cardiac Center at 1F Louis Hospital, and the Richmond Senior Center on St. John. It's at the DHS Multipurpose Center, hours of operation, 7 a.m. until 6 p.m. Well, Robin Roberts of the national morning talk show Good Morning America visited the territory recently and highlighted the Adopt a Family volunteer organization that has collected and shipped supplies from donors on the mainland to particular families in the USVI of Puerto Rico. Roberts spoke with residents who shared stories on their hurricane experiences and what they're doing to make their communities better. GMA host applauded the residents for their vigor in amateur video caught by a local resident. Here's more.
But thank you for your spirit, your resiliency, your patience, your love, your strength, and know that we care. We care, and you know, part of the reason that we're here is that we know that there've been a lot of storms. There's been I wrote a book that everybody's got something, and everybody's something is important. And just bless you for doing so much on your own, and the way you're just asking for help. That's it. That you're helping yourselves, but you need a little assistance.
Nice to have her in the VI. Well, the Cane Bay Cares Initiative created the following devastation of Hurricanes Irma and Maria is $1 million fundraising campaign. They say to provide direct relief to the people of St. Croix. Beginning at 11 a.m. on Saturday, Cane Bay Cares, they set up at Zion Christian Academy near Sunny Isle, distributed some solar lights, water, and food packages to St. Croix residents, many of whom began lining up as early as 7:30 a.m.
This is the strongest community that I've had the blessing to be involved with, and I know the partners feel the same way. All of just the local individuals that come out to donate their time and help us has been incredible. And definitely please go on our Facebook, let us know what the community needs, what we should be getting, and we will be responding, and you will see a very active group.
Meanwhile, here is more progress to report, the latest WAPA restoration update.
On St. Thomas Monday, crews energized primary circuits from feeder 7A to 8B towards Lovenland, allowing for restoration of that community on Tuesday. Crews continued work restoring customers in Anna's Retreat on feeder 9C and in the Tutu area on feeder 7C. The restoration will continue towards St. Joseph and Rosendahl. Crews re-energized additional residential customers in Bordeaux, Crown and Hawk, and Estate Pearl on feeder 6A, and in Estate Altona on feeder 7A. Reconstruction crews are dressing poles and placing new primary circuits in the Frenchtown community on feeder 10A. On St. John, crews are continuing to restore service to customers while reconstruction work is being done on primary circuits from Cruz Bay to Coral Bay. Customers restored on Monday included St. John Concrete, Serenusa, and the George Simmons Terrace. Other crews planted poles for single-phase electrical service in various residential areas and prepared circuits to be re-energized in Estate Bethany. On St. Croix, approximately 65% of Frederickstead Town has been re-energized on feeder 8B, as well as some customers in Estate Wim. On feeder 5A, the Ricardo Richards Elementary School has been restored, as well as some residential customers in Estates Barron Spot and Ruby, along with Flamboyant Gardens Elderly Home. About 95% of Little Princess Hill is re-energized on feeder 4A, and on feeder 2A, customers in East Street Christianstead and Tide Village have been restored. Other facilities now on the electric grid include the Pearl B. Larson Elementary School, the WAPA Potable Water Pump Station in Estate Welcome, and the VIPD station in Estate Richmond. On Tuesday, crews will continue work in Estate Rattan on feeder 4A. Other crews will also begin working to energize from West Airport Road along Queen Mary Highway to the East Airport Road, allowing service to be restored along Paradise Road around to the Lewis E. Brown Senior Villas. Additional work is also scheduled later this week on feeder 3A from Catherine's Rest toward Herman Hill.
Thanks for that, John. Stick around. We have much more straight ahead. We'll be right back.
Good evening. Hopefully everybody had a nice day here in the Virgin Islands. Our weather is pretty nice. Taking a look at our satellite, not much going on. The Virgin Islands, pretty quiet. Puerto Rico, we are seeing a couple of showers in places. That's because of this front here. It's going to be moving closer to us, but staying to the north, and that's going to bring an increase of spotty showers across the region, especially Puerto Rico. And on Friday, that's when it's going to become even closer to the islands with more frequent showers. Other than that, it's going to be pretty sunny and really nice across the area. So for tonight, 78 degrees for our overnight low. That's nice and warm with a passing shower in some places. Tomorrow in St. John, mostly sunny with a spotty shower in some areas. 85 degrees. St. Thomas also 85 with some spotty showers, and St. Croix a little bit warmer, 88 degrees, and we could see some spotty showers across the islands. We do have a small craft use caution advisory out there through tonight, but our conditions are improving, so I do expect this to be lifted. On the Atlantic side, waves 3 to 5 feet, winds out of the south from 10 to 15 knots. In the Caribbean side, very similar here, 3 to 5 feet for our waves, winds out of the south from 10 to 15 knots. Now, taking a look at the next couple of days, Thursday is going to be pretty nice, maybe a couple of spotty showers, but mostly sunny and just beautiful. Friday, that's when the front drops a little bit closer to us, so especially in Puerto Rico, we could see an increase in showers, even some downpours at times in Puerto Rico. Not as wet in the Virgin Islands. We could see some spotty showers, but nothing like we're going to see over for our friends in Puerto Rico. Saturday, still a shower or two in place. Temperatures at 85 degrees. And on Sunday, our weather will be drying out a bit. We could still see some spotty showers across the islands. Temperatures here staying in those mid-80s all week for our highs, and our lows in those upper 70s. Back to you.
Thank you. Hector Pimentel, second grader, shares this beautiful VI picture there with some sunshine, puffy clouds, blue skies. Hector, thank you for that. Second grader. Very talented. Send us your News 2 weather picture to the address on the screen and tune in to see it right here on News 2. That's all for now. Thanks for watching. We will see you next time.